Hey, welcome back. Today we're taking a look at plant cells. So sticking with eukaryotic cells, we're going to look at the organelles that are found only in plant cells. So first feature, the thing that most distinguishes plant cells from animal cells is the cell wall. Now, cell walls are not unique to plant cells. Bacteria, fungi, protists, lots of other organisms have cell walls. In fact, it's almost like they're more unique to the fact that animal cells, our cells, don't have cell walls. That's almost more unique than to say that plant cells do have cell walls. So the purpose of the cell wall is to protect the plant, maintain its shape, give it structure. That's how trees are so large and able to stand up and have that hard bark. They prevent the excessive uptake of water. So we talked about that when we looked at osmosis. Plant cells can absorb water without bursting like animal cells will because of that rigid cell wall surrounding the cell. So here's an image of a plant cell. First thing to note is here's the phospholipid membrane. We're familiar with that down here at the bottom. It's in the yellow and green. So there's the phospholipid heads, and then there's the tails in the middle, and the phospholipid heads again on the bottom. So this would be the cell membrane. And then the blue is the cell wall, kind of crisscrossing cellulose. The blue would probably be cellulose, and the pink and yellow are proteins kind of linking it all together. Up here on top, that would be what's between the middle lamella. That's between another plant cell. So imagine there's probably another plant cell sitting on top of this cell. So the middle lamella is what's between those two plant cells. So the cell wall, first thing to note, is the cell wall is much thicker than the cell membrane. And here's the cell membrane, here's the cell wall. It's significantly thicker. Mostly, plant cell walls are made up of cellulose. If you remember, our bacteria cell walls were not made up of cellulose. They were made up of a combination of proteins and other carbohydrates. So again, plants do still have a cell membrane, but unlike the cell membrane, the cell wall is fully permeable, which means anything can pass through it. So here's the cell wall. You can kind of see all these big gaps in the cell wall. It's not going to stop anything from passing right through it. That's the cell membrane's job. Remember, large and charged molecules can't pass through the phospholipid bilayer. And that's the job of the membrane, not the job of the cell wall. Next up, kind of unique to plant cells, is a large central vacuole. So animal cells have vacuoles too, but our vacuoles tend to have a lot of them, and they're much smaller, whereas plants usually have just one large central vacuole, almost like a big lake here. If you look at it through the microscope, it kind of looks like nothing at all. The membrane on that large vacuole is called the tonoplast. And the vacuoles have a lot of purposes. So again, just imagine they are a membrane-bound sac, and most of the time they're used for storage. Storage of water, storage of different compounds, food, sugars, lots of things that a cell might need are stored in the large central vacuole. So plants have organ and organ systems, just like animals do. We're probably more familiar with the animal organ systems, the digestive system, the respiratory system. We have other ones as well. But plants also have organ systems. We generally talk about the roots as one system, the stem, and the leaves are the three main organ systems in most plants. Now those are divided into the root system and the shoot system. So you can see the root system here is, well, it's the roots that keeps the plant anchored, and the shoot system is the part above ground makes photosynthesis possible. So why do I go over all that? No, you don't need to know any of that. Don't worry about studying any of that. But I want to emphasize, again, I don't want to show you just one generic picture of a cell and say, here's what a cell looks like, because that's actually not at all what a cell looks like. Cells are unique, even inside of plants. So root cells, here's a root cell over here on the left. You can tell that it's different from other types of cells, and look what it's lacking. Big organelle we usually associate with plants, the chloroplast. Guess what? Root cells don't have them. They're underground. They're not going to use sunlight to perform energy conversions. They're underground. Stem cells are shown here in the middle. So this is a top-down view. And this is the side view. Stem cells tend to be very long, so we can see that here, very long cell. There's that big central vacuole in the middle. And that kind of works like a straw in these stem cells. Allows water to be brought up from the roots, brought up through the roots to the very top of the tree. So stem cells kind of act like a wall and add the support. You can see they have very thick corners on their cell walls here, kind of like the pillars that hold the plant up. This is the picture that looks down on the stem cells, and this is looking at the stem cells from the side. And then finally, a leaf cell, a typical leaf cell over here on the right. This is, if you're going to look at a generic cell, the cells you've seen of plants, this is probably more or less what they look like. Plant cells are going to have lots and lots of chloroplasts. Nucleus, obviously, don't forget plants still do have mitochondria. It's not unique to animals. There's that large central vacuole. So this is probably that generic plant cell is the leaf cell when you look at a plant. But just to kind of throw it out there, cells and organisms are very, very different. I hate that generic picture with all the organelles in it, because cells don't look like that. That's not how cells look. Cells look like, well, they look like what they should look like to do their job. They're a root cell, they're a stem cell, they're a leaf cell. So that's all I have for you today. Heard the bell. It's time to start school. I'll see you guys tomorrow.